Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Avengers: Age of Ultron. Yeah, we're getting knocking out a few Marvel movies for one. So we had Captain America: First Avenger the other day, and man, yeah, sorry, didn't mean to get that close. Yeah, we've had a little streak here and there, and so yeah, here we are with the Avengers, their sequel, another Joss Whedon directed film, and this one runs about 2 hours and 22 minutes. Oof. From 2015. God, it feels like a lifetime ago because we've had like 23 some movies in the MCU, so it's this is barely scratching the surface. We've had 2 other Avengers movies and God knows how many other things intertwined with it since. But this is a big turning point film. I guess you could say that with any of the Avengers films because they kind of cap a phase in many cases. Or at least sort of build up to a phase. Of course, we have one of the classic Marvel Comics villains in Ultron, and perfectly cast with James Spader. He does a great, creepy robot voice. I mean, Ultron's not so much a robot, but he's a robot. Let's just say that. Joss Whedon, when he was asked what to do for the sequel, he immediately said Ultron has to be next. And Joss has this way. If you know how Joss works, he tends to lean towards examining humanity from an inhuman standpoint. So having a robot explain how humanity works, the good and bad, the good and evil, and how we make our decisions in light of our current world circumstances. He's created by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner in order to be a shield around the world, something that can protect the world. Well, yeah, of course, they work with some AI that is somehow tinged with a little bit of the Mind Stone from the Infinity Gauntlet, eventually to be part of the Infinity Gauntlet. And then there's Thor getting involved. It's well, that's later, but it's the whole idea that certain perfect storm of elements come together to create Ultron and eventually Vision, which Ultron had hoped to become. I'm hopefully not spoiling too much for you, and this probably doesn't make much sense to you anyway if you haven't really stayed up to date with the Marvel films. For me to mention Vision and Ultron and how they came to be is something you won't retain in your brain, and you'll watch it and go, hey, there was some nice action, and I saw Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth, and they were hot, so, that's probably why people watch the movies if they don't know or don't care who Ultron is or who Vision is. Yeah, so we get Joss likes to work internally with his characters. He's very quippy. This again, it's one of the things that some people find to be a flaw in the whole Marvel universe, but I think it's a benefit because it's, especially when you're dealing with Tony Stark, it's always quippy, but everybody gets infected with quippiness when Joss Whedon is writing and directing. So yeah, you get, the man's been writing this way for decades, all the way back to Roseanne. So yeah, you're gonna pretty much, and of course through Buffy is quip central with the dialogue and the big bad and everything else. So yeah, even if you knew what Joss Whedon was like from watching all of his other stuff, Firefly and Angel and Dollhouse and everything else, you would, and you didn't know that he was directing this film, you would go, yeah, this is a Joss Whedon thing. It just has that tone, has that sound. But yeah, no, when he's introducing Wanda, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver, especially Wanda, he gets his opportunity to have everybody explore themselves internally, their soul, their mind, their spirit, their emotions, and that's where he just he goes to town. He's really hungry for that kind of stuff, and he loves bringing that out in characters. So yeah, it makes total sense that everything rolled out this way, even though this thing is jam packed full of real action. And I forgot just how relentless some of the action scenes are. They go on pretty long, and even like from the very start of the film, which the normal first 5 minutes of any film involves a big action sequence that is somewhat disconnected from the main storyline, but still grabs people's attention, and then the main story starts. So usually the opening scene sets the scene, and of course, what else would you want to see other than the Avengers in action, just kicking butt? And Joss loves these single shot scenes, even though they're totally CGI at this point, and how he connects them. You've seen him do it in so many different other projects that he has, especially Firefly. He did it in Serenity, I should say. He did it in Serenity, where it looks like it's like a single shot as he introduces each of the characters. He does this in an action sequence in the very beginning of the film. And of course, he does it, although there is editing, he does love the spin around, just like he did in New York during the Battle of New York. He does love doing the spin around inside the Sokovian church as every character is battling all the Ultron androids. So yeah, he does love comics, and he does love that whole sense, and I think he nailed it in this. Yeah, I mean, I know some people don't find this to be their favorite, and maybe it's not the best of the Marvel Avengers films, but I don't think it's as bad as some people make it out to be. Maybe you don't connect with the villain so much, even though James Spader is freaking awesome in his flawed, inhuman way, even though he considers himself superior. I have to admit that a lot of the sequences just involving his whole entire plan of lifting up a city and then dropping it to kill everything seemed a little bit showy for something you would figure an android or robot or whatever would sort of get right to the point, do the math and just go. Lifting a city up just seems and then dropping it to create an extinction event seems just a bit. Here's my evil plan. He even jokes about, let me take some time to tell you my evil plan, and that's a very Joss thing. But the fact that he gave them so much opportunity. Yes, he could have launched nuclear codes. They make it clear that he could have just gotten a hold of all those codes and launched all the missiles in the world, and the movie would have been very short. Even the Avengers were not going to be able to knock out every single thing, but we know why. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but we know why he didn't take to go use the nuclear option. So yeah, it seems to cover all the little bases. It sets the stage for so much character-wise and story-wise leading into the Infinity War and Endgame. In fact, by the way, I think this is the first movie in which Endgame is mentioned. The term Endgame is used. Tony mentions this. This is the Endgame. This is his. So yeah, this is a name that they've probably been wanting to use all the way to from the very beginning. But, because Doctor Strange says it in Infinity War, but, yeah, it shows that the name has at least been floating around. Maybe they just decided to come up with that afterwards, but I doubt it. I think Feige and the gang pretty much had a lot of this stuff set in place. But there's big comic book moments with Hulkbuster, and, just getting to fully see the power of the Hulk unleashed when he's emotionally damaged thanks to Wanda. It shows that he is literally on the level of a 9/11 attack. He takes down an entire building by himself. Well, Tony helps unintentionally. But yeah, he knows how destructive he is. We learn about Hawkeye and his home life, which figures into a big emotional arc in Infinity War Endgame that really helps decide how we root for him, I guess. Why we root for him. And he calls out the fact that I'm a guy with arrows fighting robots in a city that's floating in the air. He knows his place in the realm of the greater scheme of things. And yeah, he's still fighting. And that's how he gives his almost Captain America level speech to Wanda to get her to not just hide when things are just going nuts as her hometown's about to be destroyed. It gets her in the game, makes her an Avenger. Cap dealing with his loss of Peggy. So we get to see Peggy Carter for a little bit, which also leads into how his story is played out in the Endgame. Tony dealing with his ego and everything else and putting everything in place for the final battle. I mean, had he been successful with the Ultron program, maybe it would have worked out. And maybe they would have been able to fight off Thanos. Maybe it just would have been a waste of time, literally. Either way, Vision was created. Would have been created in some way if they had access to the Mind Stone the way they never intended. So we have let's see, Chris Hemsworth. Thor is used to help the characters discover that there's a greater power and a process behind all these stones. So yeah, that's figured in. Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow gets her piece flashback to when she was in the Red Room, which would have been blown out even further if we had seen the Black Widow movie this year so far. But it was an early peek at what she endured in her early days growing up, raised in and all that. Plus, I mean, this is all after Winter Soldier. So when we have Nick Fury, who's supposed to be dead, coming in to give the team a pep talk and a little bit more. Marie Hill. This is just before Ant-Man. Ant-Man technically, I don't know if he's the last film of Phase 2 technically, or the first film of Phase 3. Either way, I should know this, my brain. Either way, after something so intense and overpowering like this, where everybody sort of leaves on good terms for the most part, except for Hulk, we find out what happens to him in Thor Ragnarok. We get a Civil War where it gets all torn apart. So yeah, Captain America Civil War. We get little moments with Don Cheadle as War Machine. Yeah, I mean, we get little bits also with Cap almost picking up the hammer. So there's so much fan service in this movie, and I kind of love that. Of course, the required Stan Lee appearance is in this, but Joss is good at getting the villain into play on his own terms without the heroes realizing they even have a foe. Like, he ambushes them at a party, and at the time when we see them relaxing, again, one of the charms of this film is that it's not so cosmic. This is one of the last cosmic moments, and even so, though we see conflict between the team in Civil War, obviously, it's more of an ideological one side or the other kind of thing, as compared to this conflict where we have the team literally fighting each other from all different angles, and some of them not realizing it due to, Scarlet Witch messing with their heads. But once they realize what Tony has done, especially, and created Ultron, they go to town on each other just to hash things out. And it's a multi-way conflict that it's not easily done, and Joss knows how to do that. I think this film is underappreciated for what it is. Yes, it feels more like a bridge film, sort of putting the pieces into place for the big action to come in Phase 3. But yeah, I mean, that's okay. I think it's a fun ride. I actually enjoyed this. I mean, I saw it a few times in the theaters, but I think this is the first time I've seen it since it was in theaters. Well, no, I can't say that. I watched it a few times on video with friends leading up to Infinity War and things. But for me to totally focus on it this time around, it really pushed all the buttons for me. So I'm gonna say that I like Age of Ultron a whole lot more than I thought I did. There's so many little pieces that you can just take alone. Character pieces, again, what Joss excels at, character pieces. Yes, he likes killing off somebody. That whole Joss Whedon thing he did with Agent Coulson in the first one, and we know who he kills in this one. But that was more of a business decision, I think. That it had to happen because they didn't own Fox yet. If they owned Fox, I don't know if it would have necessarily rolled out the same way. But we'll see how it goes once the X-Men come into play. Anyway, Age of Ultron. This is something that I think people should revisit. If you want to see a more personal, character-driven, even though it's not necessarily a character film, but there's a lot of interludes that build these characters a little bit more, setting them, giving you an idea who they are for the fight to come, to the big fight to come, and to see how volatile and how easily they are torn apart by their own egos and fears and everything else. So, and we also get little things like Claw, Andy Serkis playing Claw, who will technically, we get our first hints at Wakanda, the first mentions of Wakanda, and the potential there long before Black Panther was going to be, more than almost a year before Black Panther was going to be in theaters. So, yeah, this is an important little piece here. There's lots of little things to appreciate in it. So, yeah, that's my bit. So, let's pick tomorrow's episode. 387. Oof, way up there. Well, not way up there, but you have 768 things. 387. Hey, I don't know what this is, but I think it's a series of shorts. I don't know if I've seen this. Well, we'll find out, because we've got Muppet Moments. Muppet Moments. It's yellow, so that means it's a short or a series of shorts. So if it's a series, maybe I'll watch all of them, depending on how many there are, or I'll just watch a few. But I love the Muppets, so we'll see if it lives up to my expectations. Or yours. You only have a voice in the comments, and you need to comment more. That's what your mom's telling me. So, talk to you later on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. See you tomorrow. Bye.